And the legacy he leaves behind will not be found in our memories of him. But instead, his true legacy will be seen in how we live life from this day forward, revealing to the world the impact Chris had on us. Let's now fondly remember the life Chris lived with us. Christopher Allen Mackenzie was born at Kaiser Hospital in Fontana, California on September 12, 1982, to the proud parents of Mike and Lori. Chris was born with eyelashes that women would die for. And before he left the maternity ward, a nurse put him on one arm and a set of twins on the other and paraded him around, showing him off to all the other nurses and all of the other jealous moms. Chris was taken home to San Bernardino to meet his older brother Aaron, older only by a mere 17 months. And from the very beginning, you could tell that Chris was going to be a pretty mellow and easygoing child. Chris and his family lived in San Bernardino until when at age 3, he and his family moved here to Hemet. He attended Hemet Elementary, Whittier Elementary, Val Vista Elementary, Dartmouth Middle School, and then Hemet High School, where he graduated. In his early years, Chris became a Boy Scout, eventually earning an Eagle Scout ranking. He was always a fairly compliant and mellow kid. He got along with everyone and always seemed to have a smile on his face. Chris loved to have friends come and stay at the house and was a friend to everyone. And as a young boy, Chris's sense of adventure began to get a hold of him, and he hungered for an incredibly active life. Like many young boys, Chris had a share of injuries because of his pursuit of these adventures. These pursuits, these adventures brought him things like a dislocated shoulder from a skateboard accident and a blown-out knee from football and so on. But lesser boys, lesser men, would have walked away, never to return to those activities, yet Chris instead simply used them as a challenge to his resolve, and he continued to chase those sports and other activities. When Chris was in 8th grade, a friend wrote a story called Farmer Oots, and the main character was based upon Chris. And as a result, Chris became affectionately known as Ooter, and that nickname stuck and stayed with him every day since. Chris was kind of a big boy when he was young, so his mom encouraged him to pursue football. And upon graduating from middle school, Chris went on to Hemet High School, where he played football all 4 years, and it became his passion. And it was in high school that Chris really thrived. There wasn't a student at Hemet High School that didn't know who he was, and yet he was never part of any particular clique. He had a friend in every walk of life. And after high school, Chris developed a passion for snowboarding and moved to Big Bear, where he worked seasonally at Snow Summit for a few years on the snowblowing crew and eventually as a snowboard instructor. During that season of his life, he really began to change his lifestyle, working very hard, becoming really physically fit, and living an incredibly active, adventurous life. The college life never had much appeal to Chris, because he loved the outdoors and needed more of an adventure than the classroom could provide. His next adventure began when he applied to become a seasonal firefighter with the U.S. Forest Service, where he worked with the Tahquitz crew in the San Bernardino National Forest. He went on to serve in a helitack crew with the Bureau of Land Management and also served with the Mill Creek Hotshots, also in the San Bernardino National Forest. Chris was eventually assigned to a BLM engine and was stationed at Riverside County Fire Pinion Station 30, where he was able to work alongside his dad for one shift. Chris was then later invited to apply to the Granite Mountain Hotshots by Aaron Lawson, one of his former captains. And this past January, Chris started his 3rd season and now full-time as a lead crew member with the Granite Mountain Hotshots out of Prescott City Fire. And friends and family, now those are just a few quick highlights of the life Chris lived. Those are just a small sample of the moments of his lifelong journey, but they do not and cannot possibly tell the entire story. The real testament of Chris's life isn't so much in the moments of his journey, but they're much more told in the manner in which he lived them. Chris, as you've already heard, lived life to the fullest and went to places most people only dreamed about. He loved to travel and explore the outdoors, especially any place that had snow. Tahoe, Colorado, Mammoth, Big Bear. He loved to go to the river, and he loved the energy and excitement of cities like New Orleans. He loved to travel back to Tennessee, where his father lives, and play in cities like Nashville. And he loved fighting wildfires, and he told his brother that that was his way to see the most beautiful countrysides in America. Chris loved football. He loved skateboarding and snowboarding. He enjoyed fishing, mountain biking, hiking, and running anywhere from 3 to 10 miles per day. He loved being in the outdoors. But most of all, Chris loved to be with his friends and his family. He really cultivated his relationships and friendships, and he received his firefighting teammates as true brothers. And over the past few days, our family got together to share memories of Chris in preparation of today. And we talked at length about what kind of man Chris was, and we shared our best memories. And I want to share with you just a few thoughts from the family. And I'll start by reading contributions from Chris's stepsisters, Jill and Janae. Jill wrote, "Ever since I can remember, I have known Chris. We grew up vacationing together, having pool parties and barbecues, and celebrating holidays. Remember Psycho Santa? As we got older, we got closer, and I'm so thankful for that. Chris was never at a loss for words, and he always had a story to tell. He was very protective of those he loved, and he was never afraid to stand up for what he thought was right. Chris always left a lasting impression on all those who were lucky enough to meet him because his personality and his smile were too hard to forget. I really admire how he took control of his life and became such a remarkable man, a man that I will always cherish, and I'm thankful to have known him and was able to call him family. I love you, Chris, and don't ever forget to tell someone who deserves it to kick rocks." Janae also wrote, "Knowing and being related to Chris nearly my entire life, he's in all of my memories of family vacations to the river, holidays, pool parties, birthday parties, barbecues, and Christmases. We were all so close in age that I think it was just a given that we'd all be grouped together, but my best memories came later as adults. There were still vacations to Mexico, Christmases spent together, but now instead of just being grouped together, we were together as something more. We'd become friends, and that was the best. Over the years, I'd meet his girlfriend, see his new tattoos, listen to all of his crazy stories of his shenanigans that would sometimes have a direct route from the local bar to the ER, and shake my head. I'd roll my eyes and wonder when he was ever going to settle down. But now that he's gone, I'm so happy that those were his stories and that's the way he lived his life. No one can ever say that Chris didn't live each day to the fullest. I was looking through old photo albums, and he had one titled, 'I Love My Blanking Life.' And he really did. It gives me so much peace to know that he enjoyed every minute of being on this earth and that he died doing what he loved, and he wouldn't have wanted it any other way." Also in the past few days, Chris's brother, Aaron, also shared with me a few things. He shared that Chris was an incredibly hardworking and dedicated young man. Chris loved music. He played the trumpet, although not very well. In fact, his family decided to talk him out of it after he fell on his trumpet and bent it in half. And although Aaron and Christopher were different from each other, they were definitely very close brothers. Aaron shared that Chris lived life to the fullest and loved people more than anyone he knew. Chris's mom, Lori, also shared several memories and thoughts. She shared that Chris was always on the go, always doing something in the middle of the moment. She shared that Chris is an instigator. In high school, during his senior year, during the football season, he and some fellow Hemet high school football players apparently broke into San Jacinto High School through the AC ducting to steal a bell that apparently goes to the high school that wins their football game against each other. I think it's safe to confess that now, yes? She shared that she will always remember his eyelashes. Women would always comment on them. He cut them off once in elementary school, in class, just so that his classmates would stop making fun of him. Chris truly has friendships that are life-impacting, not superficial. If he liked you and loved you, he loved you all the way. And Chris's heart has never been more evident in his love and care for his mom during a recent medical challenge. Chris's dad, Mike, also shared some thoughts. That Chris grew up just like any other kid and just loved to be with friends and family. Yet Chris is also a very special kid that he loves a lot. He especially looked forward to when Chris would come out to Tennessee to fish and help work a little bit with Dad. And he also wanted to let it be known that Chris's dad, my Uncle Mike, had no real direct influence on Chris pursuing firefighting, no pressure, other than being a successful firefighter himself. Instead, the strength and determination needed for that lifestyle was already in Chris. And he simply pursued what he needed to pursue. Also, on behalf of Chris's aunts, uncles, and cousins, we will all simply say that Chris never let the negativity of this world get to him. He loved and lived life with a full heart. And his life and his career reveals that he embraced the responsibilities of a man, yet somehow doing it while keeping and retaining the heart of a child. In many pictures of Chris, you will see what we have always seen: a childlike, mischievous smile. It was one of those smiles that would make you think, somebody should probably smack you right now, Chris. But instead, I think we'll just hug you. My cousin Chris was infectious. You want to be around him, and he'd always make you laugh. And Chris absolutely loved his family, and we loved him. And Chris was heroic. He was heroic because as a firefighter, he was willing to run into a moment when nearly everyone else would run away. He was heroic because he was willing to put his life on the line in effort to protect the lives and livelihoods of others, and he made the ultimate sacrifice doing just that. But most of all, Chris was heroic because he loved deeply and was not afraid to show it. Friends and family, the testimony, the legacy of Chris's life cannot possibly be summed up in these short few minutes we have today. The true fullness of Chris's life is seen in all of us and will continue to be seen in the lives that we live and the stories we tell about him. Friends and my family, we have a choice. We can live in grief and sadness that Chris is now gone. Or we can walk tall and walk strong because Chris lived, we lived with him, and our lives will forever be better because of it. Chris's legacy is not found in our memories. Instead, it's found in how we go on living, ever changed by his love, his goodness, and his impact on each of us.